Who is the premier program in the state of Florida? And then also he's asking who should get the first pick of recruits between Florida, Florida State, Miami.
Okay.
I don't know if he's asking who's in the best position right now
Right.
based on the perception and what's going on currently with the coaching staffs and all of that to have their pick.
Okay, the preeminent team in the state of Florida for college football right now has to be UCF. I don't like it. They should not be in contention for a national championship, a real national championship, not whatever stupid, Jeff's basement poll gave them that last year.
I was a supporter of that, though.
I'm not at all. I mean, they're very good and they beat the teams on their roster. They're not going to go through a schedule against the big boys and win all those games. They're not going to do it. I'm not sorry. That's how I feel about it. Period.
Oh, I agree.
Right. But they're going to come back and say, oh, well, teams won't schedule us. Well, no, I'm not going to schedule the best mid-major team over and over and over again. And that's what you are. But you do have to have a clarity of self. So right now, everybody else in the state of Florida is scuffling. Well, Florida, the University of in Gainesville, they are a close number 2 because they're having the best season out of any other of the 7 teams in the state. Other than UCF. But for now, today, I will have to say that the preeminent team currently is UCF. Now, if we're talking about recruiting, the team that should get more recruits than any or a higher caliber quality should be Miami, because the Tri-County area of Palm Beach, Broward, and Miami-Dade is literally the most fertile recruiting ground in all of America. So even if you're not getting all of the guys, you should get enough of the guys where you have these high caliber players, even if they're only ranked 3 stars because they, only started as a senior because there was another All-American in front of them and of the year before and another All-American before them the year before, and so on and so forth. Miami is in a unique position where those guys can be on campus all the time. Case in point, 4-star defensive back. I like him at safety. Some people say cornerback, whatever. Tyreek Stevenson from Miami Southridge popped up on campus for practice today. I mean, everybody's All-American. It's between Miami and Georgia. He's come out and said that both teams are tied at the lead of his recruitment. And he showed up on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving on campus for an unofficial visit because of proximity. Now, of the best jobs in college, and I've gone over this when somebody said that Oklahoma was a top 3 job or whatever, I don't believe that, first of all. But I think that Florida and Florida State are both top 10 jobs in a vacuum. I think that Miami is probably in that 10 to 16 job, in a vacuum, if you just ranked all of the coaching jobs in America. So all these teams should lean on the in-state recruiting, lean on their areas where they dominate recruiting, and then get some other guys. So for not Jacksonville. So Miami should be South Florida, and then you cherry pick around the state. Florida State, they should be Tallahassee, Jacksonville, a little bit in South Florida, because you have a lot of people who are from South Florida who went there and then came back home. So you're going to get a couple guys from here, and then really be in that South Georgia area, because South Georgians, they're Florida State fans because it's closer to Florida State than it is to Georgia. Florida, they should be Orlando, Tampa, where they have Tampa on lock. I mean, nobody should be getting out of Tampa for Florida. Away from Florida. And then a little Jacksonville, and then maybe a little Miami, same way like Florida State should be able to go to Miami and get a couple guys. Now, I know that Miami fans are saying, well, Miami should get everybody. By numbers, you're not going to get everybody. But Miami needs to get a higher quantity of the top guys. And that's where Miami's recruiting has been lacking. So I think that all 3 teams in the big 3 in-state, that's Miami, Florida, and Florida State, should be able to recruit well when they really lean into their identity of who they are and where they've been successful to go and get players. When you start to go away from that, that's when I think you see things straying. So for Florida State, for example, I've said for years that when Jimbo was there, I know that the recruiting rankings were high, but they had a small window, a small bubble, and it was going to burst. But the majority of their recruiting classes were from out of state. So you're not going down to South Florida that much. I mean, you get a couple guys. Obviously, you get Dalvin Cook. You get, I'm not saying they didn't get anybody, but you're not going to these places where you routinely go. You didn't go to Jacksonville, and that let Miami get a big foothold in the Jacksonville area now. Why? For who? Like, okay, you're going to go to Mississippi and get Cam Akers. Everybody's All-American, top 10 player, 5-star All-American. But some of these other guys on the offensive line, they're talking about, oh, they're terrible. We've been saying this. I've been saying that, and I'm not a Florida State fan at all. Like, please, I went to Miami. I graduated from Miami. I can go show you my diploma. But as an objective recruiting observer, if I'm trying to tell you, look, you guys need to really lean into who you are, and Florida State fans saying, nah, oh, SoCal, Cali knows, we're going out to California, we're getting all these boys, da, 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 and then you don't. And then you got Jaden Woodby this year. Cool. Awesome. But you went after all these other guys that you didn't get, when you could have gone after guys, you know, locally or regionally and things like that. So when you really have a true identity of self and you lean into that, then I think that everybody can be successful recruiting in the state of Florida. But obviously, winning counts. And when I wrote the recruiting rules, that's recruiting rule number 9, the last one, which could have been number 1 and the most important, because you had to win to have proof of concept. So I think that if you were ranking the teams right now on the trail in 2018 who have buzz, it would probably be, I would say, Florida, Florida State, and Miami in that order, because Miami has more recently looked terrible than even Florida State did. But like I said, everybody should have the ability to really recruit well in the state of Florida if they have a solid game plan, know who they are, and then attack that game plan in a smart way.
Got Cam Underwood on the line from State of the U. You got to join him right there and the rest of the crew for Miami football coverage. And, of course, college basketball is underway as well. So apparently I didn't interpret that question correctly, Cam, because this is going to be an easier selection and dissertation for you to make. He is asking historically to rank the programs in the state.
Oh, historically on performance?
I guess so. It didn't read that way to me.
I mean, in performance, it goes by era, I think. You know, like if you're going, you know, way back, then I would say Florida. If you're going into the 80s and 90s, I mean, I'm going to say Miami because we won more championships than anybody else. And then recently, I would say Florida State because, you know, they rebounded with Jimbo and they're the most recent national champion of the 3-team cadre and things like that. And I mean, you can go back and look at recruiting rankings and things like that, obviously, for more flavor. But I mean, I think that each one of the programs has been at the top multiple times because each program has won multiple national championships. So it's kind of a cyclical thing. Yeah, that's what I'll say.
Cam Underwood, State of the U, talking Miami football, taking on Pitt, and that's the final regular season stop. I also think that the bowl destination, Cam, means something because there, if you get by the real marquee bowl games, even after New Year's Six, there's a handful that are nice destinations and have some kind of cachet to them because it's like a Big Ten SEC game or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. That you mentioned the Camping World Bowl. Now, if you just say Camping World Bowl to the average fan, it sounds like, you know, one of these hokey made up bowls that with the cheesy sponsor name, and it doesn't have a real name and wasn't tied to anything. If you go through the history of the bowl, it's got like, you know, the Russell Athletic Bowl, the Tangerine Bowl, the Blockbuster Bowl. It goes way back. And it's also sitting, like you mentioned, and going through those tiers at a place where it has been the marquee destination for that ACC team that slots in after the New Year's Six. So, for example, Virginia Tech going to the game last year against Oklahoma State because Miami was elevated into the New Year's Six. North Carolina, when they went to the ACC championship game, went to that bowl. So, if that's the destination, it's also a location. So, I think it's a better look to sell recruits, or just a better TV look when you're in somewhere in a nice locale, even if the name of the bowl isn't something people are familiar with. But if they see the nice surroundings versus guys shivering on the sidelines in El Paso, Texas, or Shreveport, Louisiana, you know, a couple days after Christmas, that's not really a good look for, yeah, we had a really good season and we're a top program.
Yeah, but I mean, you have to get to a bowl game. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you have to, I mean, you want to be in a higher tier game, obviously. And that is going to give you a little bit of a better location, obviously. So the Camping World Bowl is in Orlando. There's the Gator Bowl in Jacksonville is a good location. Even the Belk Bowl up in Charlotte is a tier 1 bowl. It's not local, it's kind of regional to Miami, but that's a better location than El Paso, Texas, which I've been to one time, and I'm, God willing, never going there again in my natural life. Shreveport, Louisiana, same statement. And I mean, yeah, so I mean, it's a blessing to be in a bowl game and to go to a place that has a bowl, but like, yeah, I would much rather go to Orlando or Jacksonville or, even the Quick Lane Bowl in my native Detroit, Michigan. Like, I'd rather go there, than some of these other places. So yeah, winning this game against Pitt and hopefully elevating to being able to get to one of those tier 1 bowls in that, second kind of tier. If you take, college football playoff, New Year's Six, and Camping World as the top tier, and then tier 1 is actually that second middle layer. You want to get up there. So yeah, hopefully, Miami is able to win this game and get up there.
So, of course, you guys played Washington State a couple of years back in El Paso, the game you're referring to.
Yeah.
And I'll give you my impression from just watching that game on television. And it's been broadcast by CBS since like the 50s. Like their last tie to bowl postseason play on CBS, and they won't let go of the Sun Bowl. It's their game on New Year's Eve. So, but it's a picturesque stadium. It's a beautiful scenery that's unlike most, if not all, bowl games. But it looks like you're playing in a 40,000 seat, high-end high school stadium that you would see somewhere in Texas. And obviously, it's in a warmer portion of the country most of the year. But at that point, it looks like you're going to get a lot of those like low 40s days where the wind comes through and there's no stopping the wind.
Right, because there's elevation concerns there too. You know what I mean? So like, it's picturesque because you're up in the mountains or near mountains, and you see the mountains in the background of the stadium. So like, that impacts the weather as well.
Cam Underwood, State of the U, breaking down Miami and, of course, the Canes take on Pitt, and then a bowl destination to be announced after the conference championship games the next Sunday. Cam, we appreciate you stopping by, catching the link that I threw out there. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no worries. So I, just finished this, and a buddy of mine is about to pull up right now, so I can teach him my famous mac and cheese recipe, so he can have that for his Thanksgiving gathering tomorrow. So we're right on time. And that's why I'm wearing a regular black shirt to cook, not a Miami Hurricane shirt, because I usually wear my Hurricanes gear, but I was cleaning the kitchen, getting ready for him to come over to teach cooking a little bit. So
yeah, you can't mess up the gear.
Exactly. So I know that I won't see you. So for me to you, and then everybody watching, happy Thanksgiving, peace and blessings to all of you.
Happy Thanksgiving to you, Cam. We always appreciate it. You have a great time.
All right, you too. See you guys.